Hey everyone, for tuning into this conversation with Professor Georg Güebitz. Georg is the researcher behind our recently announced HempNet project, where our goal is to take hemp fibers, which grow much more sustainably than cotton fibers, and modify those fibers using enzymes and functional molecules with the ambition of making hemp the most desirable fiber by clothing and textile manufacturers. So our goal is to make hemp softer and more water repellent and more flexible. So we'll be talking about Georg's past experience from his biotechnology career and research over the last 30 years and what sort of like led him to work on this project. And of course, the details of the project. So if you are a backer of HempNet and you've contributed funds already, you definitely don't want to miss this conversation. And if you're interested in supporting the funding of the HempNet project and co-govern the IP and participate in key decisions while also gaining exposure to the success of the project, you can go to validao.bio/HempNet. Yeah, we will also have a campaign that we'll be announcing at the end of the live stream where you can win up to $2,000. So make sure you stay for that. But if you can't wait for it, you can already go to our Discord, as we've already announced it to our community, but we'll be announcing it to everyone else at the end of this live stream. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Professor Georg Güebitz. So it's great to meet you, Georg. As I mentioned before, our community has been really excited about this project. It's committed 25,000 euros, so approximately 1/4 of the total amount. And new, crowdfunding funds are coming in on a regular basis. And when, we dug into your research a little bit to learn, a little bit about your track record, we noticed your research starts around like 1997, focusing primarily on biodiesel, but sometime around 2000, 2001, there was like a shift towards more physical materials such as textiles and plastics. So I would love to learn a little bit more about, your background and what you've worked on over the years and sort of like your research vision in general.
Yeah, so the publications that you find are always a little bit delayed after the project ends. But yes, indeed, I'm working for almost 30 years on enzymes and biotechnology related to polymer processing. And meanwhile, we have published almost 500 scientific papers in this area. Maybe you have found some of them. Yeah, and my interest is still there because we all need polymers. We wear polymers. We use them in many other applications. And I strongly believe that biotechnology and specifically enzymes can help us to develop more sustainable materials in the future. We need much more polymers. Production is increasing, so only with biotechnology and smart processes we can survive, I would say. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and sort of following up on that, I'm really interested in the kind of journey that you've taken over those 3 decades, because I noticed looking at the publications that you did straight after you in 2001 when you're kind of I'm going to call it a think piece on new biotextiles for the new millennium. Very shortly after that, you had a publication about bleaching denim using a lacquase instead of using, chlorine or bleach or whatever. And yeah, that was really fascinating to me. But then looking at the kind of trajectory, you've got various publications across various textiles. So, you've got cotton, you've got obviously denim type of cotton, you've got linen, you've got bamboo, PET. I'm just kind of interested, so now it's hemp. Is that something that was kind of always brewing in the background, or was there a switch recently? There's a paper you did in 2012 about lignin and siloxane. Is that like a versatile thing? Was that kind of opening the door to not just cotton, but also hemp? Yeah, I just have so many questions.
No, it's a very good question, but I see in industry, especially and on the market, there's peaks going on. Yeah, when we
Mm,
started 25 years ago, nobody was interested in recycling. Yeah, so they wanted
mm,
us to use smart materials and all kind of different functionalizations, but industry wasn't interested in recycling, and now it's exactly the other way around. The example you gave with a denim bleaching is a very good one because this was done with indeed with volcanic stones. So this denim was washed with volcanic stones. You got that the wear effect, but you also destroyed the denim. Yeah. While with enzymes, we can specifically do a reaction on the surface. We don't destroy the textile, but at the same time, we still get the effect. Yeah. So that's actually a good introduction why to use enzymes. And indeed, we started with alternative cellulose fibers. So we started with the cotton, but then already 20 years ago, it was clear that there is a limitation with cotton worldwide. Yeah. So these flax fibers and bast fibers already came in. And traditionally, they were just rotten on the field or ratted on the field, which is a very inspecific process. And already at that time, enzymes came into play because they specifically can do the removal of those components that we don't want in fibers and do not touch the rest of the materials, or namely the cellulose. Yeah. But then, yeah, there's hypes of everything. So flax was a hype. Then synthetics came in, and it's always turning. But I think we're now at the point where it is clear that we need sustainable fibers for textiles. You know? So I think it's now time, yeah, to restart all this and make use of the technologies that we have developed over the last decades.
yeah, I think that was another thing I was going to ask about is it just seems very interesting to me that you kind of were exploring all of these bioprocessing techniques and all of these other textiles, and it's almost like, do you think it's like transferable, like a lot of what you learned? I mean, obviously it is, but like, to what extent? Like, how much of the knowledge that you've developed over the past 3 decades can now apply to hemp? Everything, or sort of half of it, or what kind of scale are we talking here? Because, you know, that could be a massive leg up for just taking a huge step really quickly if you can just suddenly direct all of your knowledge and just transfer it straight onto hemp. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I would love to hear more about that.
I would say roughly one third of all our work of applications is on lignocellulose materials. And of course, bast fibers are lignocellulose. And the concept here is that a tree consists of cellulose, but also to at least 50% to other components. And it's the same for flax or linen or hemp or whatever. And each of these components make it possible that the tree or the flax have a strong stamp and can survive in nature. But we don't want to wear a very stiff fiber. And the technology that we developed also for wood and other lignocellulose materials is that with the enzymes we can specifically attack any of these components. Yeah, not all together like chemistry does, but we can say, okay, we want to remove just a bit of the lignin because this will then produce more flexibility, or we remove the pectin, another component, or we leave it because we want to have hydrophilicity, or as you mentioned before, we attach using the enzymes specific functional molecules, again to impart another effect. So essentially, you're right. We can transfer the concepts, yeah, that we have developed, also making wood hydrophobic at the end, but still we need to verify this for the particular fiber or whatever we want to modify. So yes, concepts are transferable, but need to be proven on the particular material.
Cool. Georg, I'm really excited about the ability for enzymes to kind of like break down or remove certain targets to, create beneficial properties in the, near or short term. Can you talk a little bit about how this approach also opens up long-term possibilities to add in new like compounds or external things to even further enhance natural fibers?
Yes, so depending on the conditions, it is well known that, for example, lignin can either be broken down, it's a radical reaction, or it can even be polymerized. So we are producing films out of lignin, for example, so it's a polymerization. At the same time, other conditions lead to a breakdown. Yeah? So if it's a radical polymerization, we can just add a similar compound, a compound that is similar to lignin, has phenolic groups, for example, and then this would be covalently bound into the matrix. Yeah? What does this mean? It's a chemical bond and it doesn't leach out. Because what we don't want is in the past that we spray something on our textiles and then you wash it and it goes away and even causes a problem in the environment. So the nice thing with the concept we have is that it is a chemical bond and it's a permanent effect that we create.
Thank you so much, Georg. I'm just wondering, like, I think one question that many funders might have or could have is, what is making you particularly confident in terms of, like, prior data that you've generated through your publications, or maybe also unpublished data, that is making you confident in that we can do the same thing for hemp? And maybe you can also add there, like, why hemp in particular? Why not, flax, like linen, or these other natural fibers? What is it in your view that makes hemp more preferable for sustainable, like, future fibers? Would love to hear your take on that.
Essentially, the concept would work on all of these, they're called bast fibers, yeah. But with hemp, we've just done some preliminary experiments, so we really see that we can bind something onto or into the matrix, yeah. So this is the reason why we say let's start with this. But definitely, I think we can conclude that this is a wider possibility, yeah. So we could also look at other bast fibers, like you mentioned, flax or linen or whatever, yeah. But hemp was just the material that we have investigated most in the past. Yeah?
Got it. Yeah, thanks.
So how long, so you say hemp is the one you've investigated most in the past. Like, how long has that been going for in terms of the investigations themselves? Like, was that, did that happen to coincide around about the time US lifted the ban on hemp? Is that something that you've been thinking about, sort of downstream products that would be targeting the US? Or yeah, just because I didn't notice any publications from your lab about hemp, but that might just be because I couldn't find them.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons was that in Eastern Europe, all kind of alternative fibers to cotton were investigated a lot after the war, yeah, because there was no importing of cotton, so there is a lot of knowledge in Eastern Europe, and we were involved in projects with people from there. That's 20 years ago, yeah. So I think this is one of the reasons why we came into contact with these materials. Then we said, oh, great. I mean, we will also have a problem with cotton because it's limited somehow. And we joined forces with them. And actually, it was developing enzymes. So maybe it wasn't really related to the hemp, but it was, for instance, pectinase enzymes we developed and other enzymes, which are then needed for the writing process of these fibers, but we also use them at the same time for the pre-treatment of cotton. Yeah, so again, a similar concept. Also for cotton, you need to release some of the components in order to make it really white and also dye.
So this kind of whole time when you've been exploring it in cotton, you've also been thinking about exploring it in hemp as well?
Yes, yes. So as I said, the components are all the same in lignocellulose. So you have the cellulose, which you want to keep as a fiber. You have some lignin, and you have some hemicellulose. So that's other sugar-based polymers like pectin and others. And you have pigments. Yeah. And depending on the plant, they're all there, but in different concentrations. So yeah, we also developed enzymes to remove pigments, for example. Yeah, that's another set of publications where directly you don't bleach the fiber with aggressive chemicals, which destroys the cellulose, but you directly attack the pigments. Yeah, but that's leading now away a little bit. But yes, so the components are similar. So that's why you can transfer many of these concepts to different fiber plants, let's say.
Yeah, Albert, yeah, so you're muted, do you have?
No, I just wanted to ask, theoretically, let's say we manage to identify a couple of enzymes. We do the experimentation and we show that we can, degrade certain components in hemp. And then we move forward to the next part of the process, which is, the attachment of functional molecules. And we manage to, let's say, accomplish an improved water repellency. Of course, this is going to depend on the which functional molecule we attach. Assuming you have that process down, one question that a lot of funders might have is, when can we expect the first textile sample? When can we expect like that first T-shirt or garment or something like that? I think this feeds also a little bit into the textile industry and like the processes that are applied there. So I'd love your insight a little bit on how it looks like downstream after one have developed the modification process. And passes it on to, let's say, a textile manufacturer. How does that interaction look like?
Yeah, so I think in the first stage we would work on the fibers, on fiber samples. Yeah, we would do both indirect measurements. So can you release some of the components and measure what is released? Measure water contact end on the surface. Measure in parallel, of course, strengths, because we don't want to lose beneficial properties, of course. Yeah. And once we say, okay, we see a clear effect, then of course we would treat larger amounts. So we have indeed treated bast fibers in bioreactors, believe it or not. So we can even stir it. Yeah, it works. And then this can be kilogram scale or even more. Yeah. And yes, I would also be happy to have a sample in hands. Also because then industry can measure additional parameters. Yeah, it's not only that it's nice, like I've shown you last time. So this is another sample of a recycled polyester cotton material, so which we really got produced. And then it's also good for customers, potential customers, to see, okay, this is a real, this is working. Yeah. I also mentioned we are in contact with institutes that have facilities to test textiles and weaving and whatever facilities. So that or in small scale also, so that could come in once we really see an effect, where we say, okay, let's stop the first development work and scale up. Yeah. Mm.
I love the sample you just brought up with the recycled towel. I would love if you could just grab it one more time and maybe tell, because I think this is super interesting for a more like general, perhaps non-scientific audience to like really see, hey, we can actually create an everyday product using biotechnology. I would love to hear what went into generating that towel. If you can explain it in like, semi-technical but not too technical terms, I think that would be, super valuable to our audience.
Yeah, so in a different project, we have demonstrated that enzymes really have a potential, also short-time market potential. And many towels or linen is actually not pure cotton, but more or less 50% mixed with polyester. And imagine how will you break this apart ever? Yeah? And again, we used enzymes, same concept. They will attack just one component. And in this case, it was the cellulose. And we managed then that we could recover the polyester fibers in this case. And what we did then, our partners really produced the textile. So you can see here the logo text to mat. And it has the same properties than the virgin textile, and 50% recycled content. And we all know, of course, with the cellulose part, with the glucose, we can do many things using alcohol, even biopolymers and so forth. Well, this was one of the projects where we clearly demonstrated that, yeah, we can use enzymes. There's even, I would say it's even economic. And you can really produce a product. Yeah, it's not some science, but it really leads to a product.
Thank you, Georg. That's super helpful to know. And I would love to also know a little bit about the economics of enzymatic treatment of fibers. What are some general numbers we're looking at? What scales does it become start becoming financially feasible in a larger setting for commercial applications? And have you because there's probably a lot of like enzyme technology and enzyme bioprocessing going into the thinking behind like the overall process. Would love to hear your experience on these topics as well.
Yeah, so there's so many enzyme-based processes are already established in textile markets. That's, for instance, desizing processes are done for decades. We have talked about the denim bleaching. That's really standard. And there is many other processes that are running based on enzymes. So it will not be something unusual to the textile industry. So it will be just a different treatment step than we know already. You can buy these enzymes in big barrels already for the processes that I mentioned. So we talk about, I would say, $5 to $10 for a kilogram of these enzymes. So that's not really a lot, which would inhibit the implementation of such processes. More specific processes, maybe more fancy processes, recycling of polyester textiles and bottles. There's a French company that is currently building up a 50,000 tons plant in France based on enzymes. Yeah? So that also tells us, okay, it's not a niche, so it's really feasible.
Yeah, on top of that, I mean, could you comment on, so there's this, you got $5 to $10 per kilo for this barrel. I mean, if it's an enzyme, what's the time to denaturing for those enzymes? Like, are they basically kind of evergreen? Is it just once you've got them, now you can just use them for like a year? Or is it kind of one-off? Because that as well would be a massive advantage over, say, like bleaching, where once you bleached a thing, you can't really, can you reuse the bleach? Like, how does that work? Like, is that an advantage by using enzymes over, typical chemical treatments? Just wanted to sort of talk about that so that, again, we can kind of help with potential funders, like having that context, if you get what I mean.
That was more than a single question.
Sorry.
I think all of our questions have been like 5 baked into one, and then it's a buffet, so you just go for whichever you like.
All of them. Yeah, storage of enzymes. Industrial enzymes are usually formulated. Yeah, so it's not only the enzyme protein, like here you have somewhere. This would be the enzyme protein, where it attacks the fiber, magnification about 10 billion or something like this. But usually the enzyme product that is used in industry contains stabilizers. That could be simple sugars, which is not really expensive, or other maybe long chain alcohols. And then they are designed in a way that would at least survive storage at ambient temperature. I mean, we're talking about 30 degrees or something like this. That is then really stabilized enzymes. If you freeze them, then it can be several decades. So we've produced one of the enzymes that could have a potential, so the oxidase, 22 years ago in large scale, and we're still using it. Yeah, so we're still taking our batches and use it. if you freeze it. The other thing is you can also dry the enzyme. So, in washing powders, we have about 100 milligram per kilogram enzymes, and they're in a dried form. And in a dried form, unless the product gets wet, it would even be stable for forever, I would say. Yeah. So this is
sorry.
Of course, the question is very good. So we have to train the industry, because they might just add it into a process step where we have 100 degrees or whatever. So yes, in this case, we have to be careful. So we really have to also do some trainings and tell them, okay, the project should look like this. We use this temperature, let's say 60 degrees, but you're not allowed to boil the enzyme or whatever, yeah, or use it, I don't know, 14 or whatever. But otherwise, if you do the process right, there are not really many issues with the stability and storage stability of the enzyme. The other question was, can we reuse the enzyme? Yes, in principle, it's possible. So you will have the enzyme in the liquid in this case, together with other components. And you could remove the enzyme without ultrafiltration. So that's a larger pore size than needed for other materials released. And essentially, you could reuse it. We've done this for the degradation of cotton with cellulase enzymes. And we were able to reuse it 8 times and losing maybe 5% each time only. It works, but you always have to do balance. Is it more expensive to buy a new enzyme, or is it more expensive to install another process step like ultrafiltration to reuse the enzyme? Of course, I think it's more interesting to reuse and more sustainable, but that's a simple calculation, I would say.
I just wanted to follow up on another quick question. Sorry, Albert. Just wanted to stay on this thread while we're here. Have you, I mean, this could literally just be a simple yes or no. With AI generated proteins, sorry, I know AI, everyone's kind of a little bit annoyed by AI, but with some out of the David Baker lab, they've got stability beyond boiling point. And I was just kind of wondering if that has factored at all into your own labs thinking about, what does the future of enzyme engineering look like? Will that play a big part, or is AI enzyme engineering just another kind of a nothing burger? Like, what's your thoughts on that? Or if you're not interested, you can just say nah.
No, that's a good point. So we do a lot of enzyme engineering ourselves. Maybe one thing that is not considered enough is the sorption, because we're not talking about small molecules, we're talking about water insoluble fibers. So there we need sorption so that the enzyme sorbs to the fiber and then desorbs, otherwise we lose it. Yes, if it stays there, we lose it. It's not a catalyst anymore. So we did a lot of sorption engineering, for example. You mentioned high temperatures. That is very important if the fiber or the chain flexibility of the polymer is higher at the glass transition temperature. So for instance, for polyesters, it makes sense to have an enzyme that works close to the glass transition temperature, about 70 degrees Celsius. So then you really have a reason, it makes sense. Yeah. Otherwise, I think the project we are talking about, it is not needed unless we want to come into an existing process where they have 80 degrees, and then for the, I don't know, dyeing another 80 degrees. So they don't want to cool down the whole line, the whole jigger or whatever, just for our process. Yeah. So that would be another motivation to have a thermostable enzyme just to fit into an existing process. I mean, that's just my opinion, but yes, this should be the second stage in the project. Yeah? Once we have something that is working, we might have the needs to, I don't know, engineer sorption, make it more specific to a certain component, or just more stable.
Thank you, Georg, for that. Within the scope of this project, the 2 key milestones of testing the enzymes and then testing the attachment of the functional molecules, what sort of IP opportunities are there? We've speculated a little bit based on the application you provided, but I would love to hear it in your words on what unique advantages in hemp fiber processing that we can create from this project. Something potentially that can feed into the creation of a spin out of a company. Like we have a track record of creating companies out of the projects that we support through the community. We'd love to see a similar pathway like for this project as well. And IP is something that entrepreneurs and investors always come back to, is like, what is the protectable element that can be generated from this project?
So I think it would be a combined process to reach the desired fiber properties. Yeah. So we want to have a softer fiber, so more fiber flexibility. Also, we want to have a more hydrophobic fiber, and maybe as we go and as we talk to the customers, we might have other effects that we could include. And this would involve maybe different enzymes at the same time, or at least one enzyme that does different things. Yeah. So it could be a combined modification of some components plus attachment of a functional molecule. So a one-pot process with maybe different enzymes and maybe changing a little bit the conditions. That could be something that would be novel. Yeah. So that you in one stage you improve several properties, and you don't destroy some. We read a lot of papers, and we have done this, but then the strength is gone. Yeah, so it doesn't help. So maintaining the beneficial properties that are needed, plus adding several effects in a one-pot process. I think that could be.
That's sort of it. So what I'm hearing is it's a combination of different, and let's call them enzyme cocktails, that can, be part of like a process IP, for example, but also the fiber. Yeah, sorry, you were saying there.
And also different effects at the same time.
Yeah. And I was also thinking, like, so the fiber, the modified fiber itself, like it's the composition of matter of that fiber is some sort of intellectual property as well. And I guess like it sounds like one could generate sort of like a platform for generating novel types of fibers based on what the industry wants. So some let's say Patagonia wants something that is a little bit more durable, water repellent, because for outdoor use, while let's say H&M, maybe not the most ethical example, but maybe they want something that is softer, doesn't use as many enzymes to modify to keep the price down, of course. So yeah, that's just like how I'm interpreting it. But it sounds like the IP direction is really broad. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see the things that come out from this project. Also, what I was thinking the other day is like I've also seen that the industry is focusing a lot on, like fermented nylon, like from CO2, or like spider silk, that are very there. You have like a different type of challenge, which is like the scaling up of the manufacturing of the fiber itself, but then of course the harvesting, the processing, and so on. Whereas with hemp, what's interesting with it is that there's already a manufacturing process in place. Like nature has, refined the manufacturing process over millions of years when it comes to this particular, maybe even more. So I thought of hemp as sort of like an intermediary fiber, or like a transition fiber. So while we wait for the technology of the more cutting edge fibers to develop, hemp can maybe act as a bridge fiber, or as a bridge technology to fill those sustainability needs that the textile industry currently needs.
Yeah, I mean, you made the right points. So the others are producing polymers and then producing fibers, and we already have a fiber. Yeah, so our starting point is different. Yeah, so hemp is also grown in different environments than, for instance, cotton. Yeah? So this is also very important to know. Yeah, we have, of course, to look around the globe, and there is regions where you can't grow cotton, but you can grow hemp. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't see that that would be just an intermediate thing. So
Yeah, probably beyond. And what I also learned as been going deep into learning about hemp and everything since we enrolled in this project is that North Korea is like one of the top 10 growers of hemp.
Oh,
So
really?
they seem to be like very reliant on this because it can grow like in their climate. It doesn't need a lot of water and resources, which the country, is obviously lacking, as we hear in the news all the time. So it's so, like hemp is in a way
robust plant.
it's very robust, and it's also like when you think about the larger picture of soil health and soil composition, like over time, like that thing is going down. Access to water, like the world is drying up, especially in certain regions. So I think with hemp we're not only creating a more sustainable textile industry, but we're sort of like future proofing the textile industry in a way. Now, of course, I don't think we'll end up in a world where there's like complete drought and we can't grow anything. But I think it's like an interesting aspect to mention that if things get drier and more difficult to grow things, hemp can really fill that really critical need of the material needs and fiber needs.
It's a very important argument also for marketing the whole project. Yeah, so we are having a sustainable plant, I would say. I introduced the example that in Eastern Europe it was done during the war and after. Yeah, same example like North Korea. Yeah, so it shows. I mean, it's not nice examples, of course, politically, but it shows that you can be independent. Yeah, you can be independent with this plant. Yeah, and grow it regionally. Yeah, without a lot of resources, without a lot of pesticides and fertilizers and water. Yeah, that's and so far that's good examples. Yeah, and we don't want to use many pesticides and water and fertilizers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to follow up on that, just seeing as I'm just aware of the time, and I've got a couple of things left that I just wanted to get because it's quite useful for the video. So speaking about that, and on paper, hemp is kind of similar to linen in terms of the sustainability aspect. I don't know if linen is a phytoremediator in the same way that hemp is. I forgot to check, but in terms of, being economical with water use, not needing a bunch of pesticides as badly as cotton does. So I kind of wanted to get like, why hemp over linen if they're kind of similar on paper? Is it because of the durability? Because you've mentioned a couple of times now about you don't want to lose the durability and the strength when you start doing the treatments. Is it that if you treat linen, it's already kind of fragile as is and it's just going to get worse? Is it like harder to make something more durable? So it's actually an advantage to start at being, hemp is used for rope and canvas and stuff. Like, is that why hemp over linen? I just kind of wanted to get that side of things.
No, I would put it differently. So linen is already established as a fiber, I would say, more or less. So you can buy it already because it is, I would say, softer and you don't need many treatments. But the plant doesn't grow everywhere, so there's the advantage of hemp then. But I'm not a specialist on this, but that's my interpretation. There, hemp comes in, so it's more sustainable and you can grow it very nicely. But the fibers are not that soft and suitable. Yeah, so that's I would say the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then Albert, sorry, did you look like you were going to ask something? Okay. Yeah, and then so kind of wanted to loop back around. So speaking about, we talked about how you kind of been publishing these think pieces sort of almost like clockwork every few years from 2001, seeing these great articles about biotechnology and bioprocessing for the new age. And we kind of discussed the vision of it being, you see these trends and these peaks in the hype and the what people care about and the sustainability. And I was also just kind of wondering that there must be like a sort of an emotional side of it as well, right? Like there's got to be some sort of something driving you to have gone from biofuels also has a bunch of hype, but you did make that switch into textiles. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to see if there was anything there or if it was just a purely pragmatic decision, which is also absolutely fair. But yeah, kind of just wanted to explore that bit because that can really help. I don't know, humanize the scientist if you get what I mean.
Yeah, we work closely with the industry, and maybe I can give you another example. So I worked with a pulp and paper industry, also in Canada for some years, and there we used similar enzyme cellulases for the process. And a couple of years later, enzyme manufacturers advertised the enzymes that was 20 years ago or more, 25 years ago, that you would be able to save CO2 emissions. Yeah. So nobody bought the enzymes because why saving CO2? Yeah, we want to make money. Yeah. So now in Europe, companies have to pay for CO2 equivalents. Yeah. So I was asked 3 years ago for a project, cellulases in the pulp and paper industry, and I was happy because I already did it 20 years ago. So we did it again. But I have to say now with cheaper enzymes, more biotechnology knowledge. So there was a difference, of course. So we could use modern approaches of engineering and so forth. But the topic was the same. The desired goal was exactly the same. Just the situation, the market has changed, and also, yeah, the importance of sustainable processes, CO2 equivalents, that's a lot of money. So the framework has changed. And I don't think we will go back again, that this will all be negligible. So I think we have reached a point, of no return. Yeah? So that we really have to use now these sustainable processes.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, but like I assume that makes you feel like pretty happy, like pretty vindicated that you were looking into this like 2.5 decades ago.
Yeah, the problem is, of course, the nice thing to work with industry, you really see something. But of course, it depends on market trends and another framework. So it would have been nice to continue and then maybe have it already implemented for many years in the industry. But yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
I was going to quickly just mention that I think people are more and more willing to pay the green premium.
It's out somehow alternative, environmentally friendly, especially for young people. Yeah, so it's.
Dan, you look like you're at the edge of your seat.
Yeah. So, Georg, one thing that I think maybe might be nice to talk about is, can you talk about how, you're kind of fortunate or lucky to be located in Austria, like a region that has a history of, precision manufacturing, biotechnology, the Textile Institute, and like relevant industry in the region. I think you're in like a really amazing place to kind of be where you're at in your career and take on this project.
Yeah, there's also a region north of where we are. It's called Waldviertel, whatever. It's quite cold there. Yeah, it's always cold there. It's cold in winter. It's cold in summer, and they are growing a lot of hemp and also especially linen. Yeah, and they have like shops and where people buy especially linen clothes. So. I don't know, at the later stage of the project, it might make sense to get in contact with these companies, yeah, and get really some nice things produced by them. And they know how to market these kind of things, yeah. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that was actually something that I was hoping to quickly chat about just at the end as well. Is in terms of, so you've been doing this for like a couple of decades, well, 3 decades, and you've worked with a bunch of textiles. Have you kind of done that process, like quite a lot of, being involved in the whole pipeline and actually getting a textile onto market? Like, have you done that a few times? Have you done that at all? Like how feasible is that going to be for hemp as well? Yeah, just mostly interested in if you've managed it before because it's a super cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, it depends also on the marketing, but the last thing which entered the market was more or less some parts, some components that we were going to want to get rid of. It's a lignin-based product that we have developed that can store water in soil. Yeah, it's something like this, and yeah, it has taken about 5-6 years until we started to produce larger amounts, and now you can buy it in the shops as a can I say not fertilizer, as an additive for pot plants and also for agriculture. That will help that you need less water or at home the plants survive while you're going to Hawaii or somewhere else. Yeah. So and yeah, I was very happy to see my colleague like. Working in a startup company, surviving. You have to survive a couple of years in a startup, and now we got nice funding also from investors, and I'm very happy to show this to my friends and stuff. Yeah, so it is possible, even in Austria, I have to say. Yeah, it's not easy here because there's a lot of bureaucracy. So that's much easier in the US. But even here, it's sometimes possible to develop a product until the market implementation.
Yeah,
Working with ASIP here has been very different from any other university. Like the pace we've been able to move has been amazing. And within 2.5 weeks time, we got the contract negotiated. We got all of the information that we need from you guys, and then it went up on the page, and now it's gathered almost $30,000 of the funding amount. And I've looked at ASIP's track record of creating spinouts, and it's looking really, really good for being one institution in the small country of Austria. I think the company creation track record is really excelling in that sense, in contrast to all other much larger economies. So I think ASIP is really putting Europe on the global biotech map, and hopefully we'll be able to do that with this project as well.
Do you happen to have any other wearable products that you've helped work on before? Like, do you have you've got the towel. Do you happen to have a shirt or any item of clothing?
Yeah, there are some small SMEs who would be really willing to step in and produce something. They are producing socks. So if this is
that's perfect.
Yeah, definitely. If you can get a sock, that'd be great.
No, socks are excellent.
Would you be willing to jump another call at some point? And I mean, if you have some socks to show, that'd be amazing.
I will ask them if they could do something on our recycled material, if they still have some. So I don't know. They were so enthusiastic. They included the logo of the project and everything, and that was all for free. They didn't get any money for this. So they are really interested in this.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Nice.
I think Albert's looking itchy. I think we do need to jump. This is really wonderful call. Thank you so much, Georg. Would absolutely love to jump on a call with you again, even if not in a filming capacity. This is really nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Bye now.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed the live stream. So going back to what Albert was saying at the beginning, we're currently running a community raffle. Basically, once we hit the full amount of funding for HempNet, we'll be looking at the list of all the project supporters and choosing someone at random to receive a bonus prize of our own token, Grow. The prize pot is currently valued at $2,000, so if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, then head on over to validao.bio/hempnet and follow the instructions on page. In case you've never done anything with blockchain before, we'll also be linking a 30-second tutorial video in the replies. So that's validao.bio/hempnet to get involved. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!